It's too bad that your seats don't have seat belts, because you're going to need to hang on. I am not the type of person that gets up here and just goes, well, yes, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is how you should do it. Well, Children's writing is a blast, and it's high energy, at least for me, and it's high energy all the time. I get accused of being a perpetual 8-year-old, because you'll find me sometimes, often, we have a tile floor that goes past one of our front counters, and every so often, my wife will see me going like this and stepping in every other tile, and she goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm writing. She goes, and she leaves me alone. So, she understands. Being a children's writer is an absolute blast. We have, and this will be mentioned in the presentation here pretty quickly, we're probably the only genre that gets to mix every other genre together. We get to mix horror in the example of Goosebumps. The Goosebumps book is probably one of the most popular monster-type children's books you could ever want to read if you're a kid. I've seen so many kids get jazzed up about reading because of Goosebumps, and there's several others out there that just blow your mind. That's what I'm all about, is when I go to a school, my thing is to motivate children to read and to write, because you can't do one without the other. So, let's go ahead and get started. I borrowed this from boys, I like I'm in the tunnel. Hello, from Jeff Foxworthy. You might be a children's writer. Now, some of you may already know some of this stuff because it's sort of intertwined with each other. So, let's see what we can do. So you might be a children's writer. First, we'll start by saying that children's writers were very different. A little bit strange in some cases. We find wonderful aspects to everything. We like, walking around in every other tile. I will see something, just because that's the way my brain works, that if, in the example of one of my books, Mom, Can I Have a Dragon? It was a story that I came up with from an experience I had when I was 11 years old. And I remember this stuff. I don't know why I remember this stuff, I've just got that kind of memory. But what it was, is I had brought home a beagle puppy that was wandering around my schoolyard. And I hid this puppy in my back room of my house without my mom knowing it. And then I said, you gotta be quiet. Mom's gonna find you. So a week later, she found him anyway. And a lot of sweat, a lot of stress for an 11-year-old. And she said, what are you gonna do with him? I said, but can't we keep him? I said, no, because we gotta find the owner. And I said, okay. So from that experience, I turned that beagle puppy into a dragon. And the book came out to be Mom, Can I Have a Dragon? Which was the story of a kid who brings home this giant dragon, green and white winged dragon, or green and red winged dragon, and brings him home, puts him in his basement. He says, shh, you've got to be quiet because Mom and Dad are going to find you. Same experience, all like that. I can tell you more about that later. Children's writers are often the ones who find the beauty in a warded frog. We do. We're weird. We go, oh, that's cool. I'll be 60 years old next month, and I still think this way. I cannot help it. I don't want to help it. I'm having fun. Now, not all children's writers are this way, but we also find, the grandest and the smallest of creatures, a butterfly. I gave, as a gift, a poem to a 4th grade girl who came to me and kept mispronouncing the word calipeter. I've got it on my head. She kept saying calipeter instead of caterpillar. And I thought, oh, that's fun. So I did it, wrote the piece out, and gave it to her. She still has it. Now she's in junior high. No, excuse me. She's almost in high school. That shows you how old I am. It's not called junior high anymore. Middle school. And we encourage sudden daring in the fearful. Courage is a big thing in children's writing. So, if you want to be a children's writer, you must know a few things. You are getting into the most difficult genre, if you're not already in it, in all of the genres put together. There are over 150,000 children's writers in this country alone. It's not counting Europe, it's not counting Asia. There's a lot of crazy people running around, okay? Almost everything you do on a daily basis will be wrapped in a blanket of continually writing something. You're either percolating an idea, or you've written an idea. I was writing last night when I was in the hotel room. I had a thing, but I'm writing a different subject. So either your head or in your paper, a computer, or on a digital voice recorder, you can just continually write it, and that's the whole idea of it. The fun part about being a children's writer is nobody can tell you no. You get to go wherever you want. If I wanted to go to the moon, I could go to the moon. If I wanted to go to the moon with my dog or my dragon or my frog or whatever, I could in a book. Kids love this stuff. It's not always negative. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it can be a real pain. But here's an example. I like this part. When I was on a book tour in Scotland in 2004, and beautiful place. I went to a place called Wigtown, which is the sister city to Nevada City, which is in Northern California, above Sacramento, in the Sierras, and they're both considered book towns for the main reason that they have a lot of bookstores, and they became sister cities in that regard. Now, in this particular little town, there is a beautiful park where they play lawn bowling, and they have benches dotted all the way around it. And so I was looking at one of the stores one day, and I was like, I wonder what that would look like upside down. So, that's what I did. Now, I forgot what time of day it was, and school was about to be let up, and all these kids, all of a sudden, they saw me upside down on this bench. And I thought, what are you doing? I said, I wanted to see what this was like upside down, so they all joined me. I had about this. That bench is actually shorter than the real one. We had 6 kids on this and me in the middle. And it was just like that, except for a couple more kids. So it was one of those fun things. You can do anything you want. If you want to see a different perspective, look at it at a different perspective. Just don't go, oh yes, it would be like that. Well, no, it usually isn't. So the fun part is when that group of children came down and they discovered what it was like to be upside down and see their town upside down. They thought, oh, that's cool. They went back to school the next day and they wrote about it. And I thought, perfect. We're observant. All writers actually must be observant, whether you're how-to, fiction, nonfiction, whatever you are. You've got to be observant. It was once said that writers and comedians are 2 in the same breed. We observe so many different things in so many different ways. We can't help ourselves, and then we make somewhat great entertainment, but depends upon who you're talking to, I guess. But we're always percolating. We're always developing something in our heads. We throw away nothing and use everything, except for one time. I'm going to tell them a story about the t-shirt design. Is that okay? I was just playing around with words one day, and I said, put something very dynamic, what I thought was very dynamic on the thing, and I said, well, that's garbage, and I threw it away. She dug it out of the garbage and made it into one of the best-selling t-shirt designs she ever did. So, and I never charged her royalties, but that's okay. So, in every sense, we think about...
What did that t-shirt say? You can't just go on.
I honestly can't remember at this point.
Oh, okay.
Then give it to me. It was, he was playing with a font, is what he was doing.
Yeah, it was.
And he was playing with a font. He loves fonts. He's a fontaholic.
I'm a fontaholic, yes.
But it just sounded sort of grand. It was,
It's like
before man, there was time. Before time, there was Scotland. People loved it.
People ate that up.
Yes.
And we sold bazillions of them, so it was one of those things. So, wonderful opportunity to use all your genres: how-to, mystery, adventure, fantasy, humor, biography, historical, and many, 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 many others. There's not a single thing that you can't write for kids. Well, there is.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few, actually. I forgot about some of those. I don't deal with that stuff, so I'm okay. You can't help but read everything in sight. Writers should do this anyway. Read everything. Even stuff you're not even used to reading. If it's not in your wheelhouse, as they call it now, read it anyway, because it gives you a feeling of why they did it or how come that's that way. I love to tear apart books. I don't literally tear apart books, but I take a book, and it's like, now I'm in the middle of reading just about everything Steinbeck did, everything Ernest Hemingway did, and I wanted to know, how come? Why did they write it that way? Why did that particular writer use that punctuation mark where that is, and why they used that word instead of that word? And Mark Twain said, I get paid the same amount whether I use the word cop or whether I use the word constable. Made total sense. So I thought, okay, that works for me. So dissect sentences. There's one $64,000 word that is actually a course in colleges now that does this. They take books and they say, okay, now why did this sentence make this much more sense than this sentence did? Or why did he write or she write this way instead of this way? I get it. You know, after a while, you study it, do it. It takes a little bit extra time. It's actually quite fun. So even to the point of defining what an author was feeling so he could possibly match that feeling in your own writings. One of the lines in Mom Can I Have a Dragon was the most emotional, provoking lines I wrote in the entire thing. And it said something to the effect of, George was the name of the dragon. George began crying. That was it. Boom, boom, boom. And all the kids go, why is he crying? It's because he doesn't want to leave. You go, oh. And they go, I don't want him to leave. We want him to stay. You know, of course the kids want him to stay. But that book not only evoked a feeling of emotion, of sadness or whatever, in the child, but it also invoked a feeling of, they read that in the parents. Parents love it when their kids can read. It's a misnomer that a lot of parents nowadays will go, oh, my child can't read, I have to put him in special education. Well, no, don't do that. You know, it gets into an area where one of the societies that I belong to in Scotland is called the Royal Authors Guild. We have a policy of not doing what is called age banding. I have one book that I've ever age banded, and that's only because parents here in the US asked about it. Age banding, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, is a dangerous thing. Age banding is one of those things that says, well, how old is this book for? Okay, you know, it's for a 4-year-old. But I got 6th graders that can't read it. I got 4th graders that can read Harry Potter. Or rather, 4-year-olds that can read Harry Potter. And I've seen 1st graders go through Harry Potter in 2 weeks, come back, take a comprehension test, and understand everything they read. Age banding is dangerous. It cubbyholes children. I don't want to get on that soapbox, okay? So you're learning to teach that the teacher can teach and show you until you are ready to strike out on your own. Now, this is the example. Okay? Let's imagine you're taking piano lessons. How many of you have taken piano lessons? Wow. Excellent. So you know about arpeggios and scales and notation and all that stuff. I'm also a classical trained musician, strings. Now when the teacher said, okay, I've taught you everything that I can teach you. Go out on your own. Go west, young man. And figure out your own style, your own voice in your music. My teacher was a maestro violinist, and he said, I want you to take this Bach piece. Mr. Shepard, you're out of your mind. Take this Bach piece and make it into a jazz work. I went, what? For a violin? He goes, yeah, you can do it. okay. Took it, rewrote it, brought it back. He played it at the symphony. And he went, wow. I went, okay, I must have learned something. I'm not going to play it here, of course, but you know. It's one of those things where it's like, you learn all that stuff, have your mentor, teacher, speaker, person, whatever you're studying, say, okay, now you can do this. You know this, now do this with it. It's called practice. Writers need to do this all the time. Ways of punctuation, sentence structure, use of words, giving them the style, your voice, and voila, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds becomes a comedy. I don't quite know how that would work, but that's the idea. There's different plot angles, much different words, but your story is based on, where'd it go? It went away, there we go. It's a good example. Half of that's not there. The good example is movies do this all the time. Brother, We're Out There is based on the classic of the Iliad. It took me 2 times to watch that movie to go, where? And I went, okay, yeah, that's that part, that's that part, that's that part. I get it. Okay. And then I had to read the Iliad again. I'm going, okay, that's that part, that's that part, that's that part. And I'm going, fine. We're all perfectionists. At least we'd like to think we are. It's very difficult for us. We beat up on ourselves. We are the worst. This is our downfall, many times. So even when the work is done, is as done as it can get, we're always finding something possibly that could be better. That's why God invented different editions. We have the first edition. That one's not quite right. Second edition, third edition, 15th edition, 12th, you know, and it goes on. I have been very fortunate. I have the books that I have here. I think the top is a 4th edition.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember. We all go through sort of a postnatal depression. Children's writers especially, because it is very difficult to write a children's book. It is super difficult. It is perfection personified. It's incredibly demanded of us. We have to do this because the markets that we're going for are not only just the children for them to read what we want to share, but we have teachers, we have parents, we have grandparents, uncles, aunts, relatives, we have people in the educational industry that want us to be perfect. Every comma, every period, every word must be perfect. And it must make total sense in the way that you structure it. And so it's like, okay, what else do you want me to do? Well, so when we go through this, head to your nearest Mrs. Fields cookie store, get a couple of big chocolate chip cookies, eat them right there. Chocolate is good. So, take your mind off your book and make you feel better. I like this. So tip number 2034.78, there's a lot of them. I promise the presentation is not that long. So, we have imaginations that are permanently in gear. I've already seen a bunch of characters from this group already, I'm sorry. It's dangerous. I've never offended anybody, but it's dangerous. And it's absolutely fun. So, many children's authors have great courage to do stuff that so-called normal people, don't ever call me normal, I will be offended, would not go through near or attempt either in our minds or in true life. Now the fun part about this, again, is how often are you going to bring a dragon to your basement, right? Or you're going to write about a fairy tale that really doesn't exist, although people say, well, where is this place? And I go, read the book. Or Jeremiah Dragonfly Special Day. It's a friendship book about 2 characters that you not normally ever see in real nature. It's a story about a frog and a dragonfly. Frogs eat dragonflies. These guys are fishing buddies. So go figure. But one thing, and what this is talking about, is how else are you going to know what it is like if you don't experience it in some fashion? If you haven't had, and this takes a lot of courage, it really does, because people will go, what's wrong with you? I'm a children's writer, I have an excuse. You've got to go out there and bring forth the senses, sight, hearing, smell, touch, feel. Evoke them in everything you do. Whatever genre you're into, you can even, and I always point this out, is you can always put in, especially in a how-to book. And people say, well, how can you evoke an emotion in a how-to book? And I said, it's easy. Basically, the goal of a how-to book is to make your reader feel accomplished. And when they feel accomplished, they feel good. And if they feel good and they find that your reading, or what you have written, is good reading and helps them accomplish what they wanted to do, they will continue to buy your books. How's that for a marketing ploy? So everything you do, you've got to have some kind of senses. Now, write what you know about. That was the best advice I ever got. Write what you know and you'll always succeed. Whatever it is. It could be children's, it could be how-to, it could be fiction, it could be whatever, And if you don't know something about it, go find out, Don't be lazy. As writers, as good experienced professional writers, we are always doing this. We always research what we don't know. Example, I have 2 books here, which I've never ever done before, never even considered it before. This is a complete flip of genre for me. I went from children's to murder mysteries. And people are going, what is wrong with you? I said, I've got this in my head, I need to get it out. Every good writer of whatever genre will do this. You will do a flip. You will find something that you've never written about before, and you will try it. If it doesn't work, that's okay. So far, these are working. These are due out early next year. Now, the Light and Stone one was something that started out as a commission and took me a while to get, so I've got to, when it's done, I've got to send it to the agent back east who wanted it. And he said, when you get it done, let me know. And I said, okay, fine. This one comes out in October, this month. So, anyway, you don't know, you see the previous page. So this is going to be available for those, if you send me an email or if you sign up on the email list, I'll send you this presentation in whatever form you think you need. And I'll send it to you via an email, okay? I don't mind doing that. Children's writers use emotions in their work. Like I said before, you've got to evoke it. If your reader is not feeling what you were feeling, they'll turn you off. They'll go, this is boring. It goes with children's writing especially. If children's writing want to be happy or they want to feel a sense of gentility, like in Goodnight Moon, kids are not dumb. They pick up on stuff so quickly. When they have read something and they find it absolutely provoking to them, they can't help but pick it up and continue to read as a writer. Children's writers are not afraid to let their kid side be exposed. This happens to me a lot. I sort of get caught every so often. So mimic your kids or your spouse to get a sense of how they do stuff and just let them know you're writing and you want to get a feel for what they are doing, and then tell them you're developing a character based on them and they'll leave you alone. Had a contest with the local Rotary club, and I said, I'm going to auction off this opportunity because I said, if anybody wins this contest, I'm going to put their name in the book and then I'm going to kill them off. And they're like, oh, that's cool. I mean, nobody took me up on it. So, anyway, if that happens, they might actually believe you and they might help out when they find it's okay to let their childlike side come out. And this is not always fun and games. It's not always silliness. It can be very serious at the same time. My book, The Man Who Spoke at Cats, is my big award winner. I mean, it won Best Children's Book in 2009, which led to my receiving the Best Author of 2009 and my illustrator, Best Illustrator of 2009. Quite an award, quite a big award, because this is all done from peers. And the American Authors Association is based in San Diego. quite an organization. I had never heard about it. Now, a side story from that is just a week before that, I got what I thought was an email from the Pulitzer people. This doesn't make sense. So I phoned the Pulitzer people. I said, you guys don't do children's writing, do you? And they said, no, unfortunately we don't. Okay, I've been fished. Fishing, for those of you who don't know, somebody's reached into your emails and gone, okay, I'm going to grab that from you, and I'm going to use this and spook you out somehow and cause you all kinds of problems. Well, I said, this is what I got from this person, and they said, well, could you send this to us? And I said, sure, I'll send it zipped, and you can protect it on your own and go from there. So I don't know what they did with it, but anyway. So when I got this notification from the American Authors Association, I went, oh yeah, okay, fine, sure. I was very skeptical. I didn't even know my book was up for an award. No idea. They don't even know where they got it. And I thought, okay, somebody submitted it for me, thank you very much. And went from there. And I thought, okay, what's going on? I asked my wife, do you know anything about this? She goes, no. And I thought, okay, maybe friends of mine who know I was doing this were kind of putting me on, and I thought, nope, we didn't do it. So I contacted them, and they go, oh yeah, this is very real. I went, really? I thought, okay, do I get anything? She goes, well, yeah, you get a lot of prestige, you get a certificate and whatnot, so on and so on and so on, just like a big award. I thought, oh, this is cool. So I've been able to ride with that for a long, long time, and people really enjoy that book. So it's one of those fun things that sort of happens. I like that kind of thing. So I don't go after it, it just sort of shows up. So if you find simple things, you can turn them into grand and glorious castles, and you can small winged birds into heroes, which I did in the mountain, or lonely and lost dragons into family members. You can be a children's writer.